Hey guys, welcome back to another Weird Wednesday. I'm Ashers, and this is
Tobias.
Tobias. Tobes. Can I call you Tobes?
I mean, only because you're too far away from me to do anything about it.
I won't call you Tobes. It's fine. I respect you. Okay, believe it or not, I do.
Oh, thanks.
I'll stick with Tobias. How was your weekend?
It was good. It was good. I did paranormal stuff.
Oh wow,
Yeah,
you?
I know, right? Weird.
Wow.
No, I was at Spirits in the Spring over in Broadhead, Wisconsin. It's at Broadhead Manor. So, well, first of all, I need to publicly thank Bill Wolter, who's the owner over there of Broadhead Manor, and then Nick Sarlo from Shadowhunters for putting this event on. But yeah, Spirits in the Spring, it's been a good event. We went to it last year, and it was great, and decided to go back this year because I was gonna present, and it was fantastic. I got to hang out with some people that I already knew for a while. Um, which was great. But people who necessarily I didn't get to see in person very often. So, well, our friend Kara Phillips, from
Hmm.
Into the Obscure, she was there, so that was a lot of fun getting to hang out with her. Larry Eisler III from Expedition Entity on Paraflix, and then I'm sure there were other people. Oh God, Chad Lewis and Kevin Nelson were there. Sorry, I don't mean to take them for granted. I didn't get a chance to hang out with them as much, but it was so cool to see them. I'll see Chad again at Haunted America at the end of this month. And let's see who else. I met Natalie Jones from Paraflix and Patty Negri, who was on Ghost Adventures.
Yeah.
She's just the nicest person. She is. We went out to dinner, all of us. So like me and Natalie and Patty and Emily and Kara and Larry all went out to dinner in Broadhead, and it was great. It was a great fucking time. And so it was nice to see some friends that I don't get to see ever, or at least often. Make some new friends. Just an all around great conference experience.
Okay, but did you meet any listeners?
Did I? I found out that some people that I know already listen. So that was fun. And yeah, I think there were some people who had heard us already. Probably more people who are familiar with my writing, but also
Sure.
I didn't get into. Let's see how should I put it? I guess I didn't really talk about that that kind of stuff with most of the people who I met who were attending the event. And one, because I'm not good at it. I think we can both recognize that I'm not good at self promotion or anything like that. But also because of the kind of event it was, we really just talked about the paranormal the whole time. I had a very lovely conversation with a woman who wanted to know best how to contact fairies. And so that was like a good 20-minute
Nice.
conversation right there. But yeah, I don't really think to ask people stuff like that, and they very rarely volunteer it themselves. Sometimes they will. They'll say, "Oh, I saw you on Expedition X," or
Right.
I listened to your podcast," or "I love your website," or
I read your
whatever.
book. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Sure, but often they don't. So maybe I should. People took pins. That was nice.
I'm trying to get better at doing it myself, and I should do better at it because I've been doing it for a long time.
Right? Like I'm relatively new, but you have no excuse for
I got no
not.
excuse.
Yes, you for
you know.
not for not going out of your way to mention the podcast at every opportunity.
Right, it is, but it's weird. People walk up and, I never really know what to say to people when they walk. Like I get that they're here for like, the same shit that I'm here for, but I don't even what do you say? Hey, how you doing? And then you're just awkwardly silent. I'm not that person. Like I will overshare in order to not have silence. I would rather die than have silence in a conversation.
Oh, sure.
So whenever I do these things, I'm very bad at like selling it, and so I just do. I tell them I'm a 40 investigator. I'm one half of the On Wednesdays We Talk Weird podcast, and these are more like strangers. Sometimes I forget entirely, and we'll talk about something else. I'll compliment them. That's my go-to. Compliment somebody's something, and start a conversation about that. Then I forget, and I'm like, oh wait, and they'll start walking away. I'm like, listen to my podcast, and then I make it even more awkward.
Right. I
So
did make
I
sure to
get it.
mention it at the beginning of my presentation. Like that's something that I've worked in now. So I'll tell people I'm the head writer and editor for the Singular Fortean Society and co-host of On Wednesdays We Talk Weird.
The first presentation that I gave, which was of course about the Mothman. And I'll kind of go off on tangents. You start talking about the Mothman, and then you got to go on these side quests, right? You got to talk
Mm,
about, the Scarberry mallet sighting deserves its own little piece to talk about because it's a big deal. And then you got to talk about John Keel and who he is, and then you got to talk about Indrid Cold a little bit. Um, but I had that picture of Keel where he's sitting down. He looks super professional. It's without that crazy beard, and
right.
so while I'm talking about him, there's like a slide that comes down, and it's headphones that come down and situate on his head. And then the On Wednesdays We Talk Weird logo pops up. I thought it was funny. Everybody was dead quiet when I did that.
you, just, you
Um,
just hear some like uncomfortable coughing. Like one person gets up and leaves.
I was like, oh, I think I'm trying too hard to be funny. See, when I try to be funny, I'm not.
You can't
I
try.
can't, right? And so I was like, oh, well, that landed poorly. I might as well take that out. So I did. I took it out.
Uh,
Super embarrassed. Now I just, I'll I kind of hint that about the Wednesday phenomena, which, you and I both know is not a thing, but, it was the keel. And I'm like,
sure.
Wednesdays, on Wednesdays we talk weird.
I got
Anyway,
yelled at by somebody on Twitter about that, and
about the Wednesday
I was
phenomenon.
100% right. And it doesn't like it's just one of those things. Like you saying that reminded me. Somebody got all upset because I had. This is back when I actually really used Twitter. I don't fuck around with Twitter at this point because who cares? Life's too short. I still have a Twitter account. I just don't interact with it all that often.
Yeah.
Um, but no, what the hell happened? I had
I think it was
somebody
on
I
my post
know.
about
What's
the
that?
Wednesday phenomena.
Yeah, well, somebody I know, who isn't you,
It
had
wasn't
said
me. No.
yes, who had said something about like, oh, why do people, see more UFOs on Wednesdays? And so I made a tweet about it where I was just like, why do people think that? Like that, it's never been the case. We have statistical evidence that that is not the case. Blah blah blah. Data scientists, yada yada yada, real evidence. And somebody just got all upset. Like this lady just got super mad at me. I didn't know who the fuck she was. And like I still don't. I'm not sure who this person was, but I guess like there were some people who had put together some kind of event or experiment or something that they were going to do on Wednesdays to summon UFOs. I found
Yep.
this all out after the fact. And she thought that I was talking about her specifically. And again, I don't know who this person is. I was not aware of any activity they were up to. No fucking clue. Like, why would I subtweet this fucking person I don't even know doing shit I've never even heard of? But she got super mad about it and like wouldn't let it go. And I tried to explain. I was like, "This is a coincidence. I'm sorry your feelings are hurt. I obviously I don't even know you. Like I'm not trying. Why would I call you out specifically?" But just wouldn't let it go. Didn't believe me. Assumed I was lying about it, and I was just like, "What in the fuck, Twitter?" And that was like one of those moments where I was just like, "Why am I even on here? Like, what is the fucking point of this? Like, what is the point of this? Like, is is the payoff for using Twitter just getting fucking yelled at by fucking strangers? Like, why should I care about any of this?"
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I remember it because you posted a link to an actual, statistic about, somebody who's done this with a larger pool.
Yeah.
Keel believed that it was Wednesday because he had a very small pool, right? So of course that's his pattern that he found in his small pool that he had. when it was done on a much larger scale, and it was like something like 2 million UFO sightings. I
Oh yeah,
mean, come to find out it's the weekends. No surprise there. More people are out and about or staying up
shocking.
late or whatever. Right. I mean, but I remember that because I didn't know and I learned something. And
Yeah,
usually remember when I learn stuff. So
sure. And you're also not a terrible person who just blows up at people for no reason. But like
I
this
remember
this
who it
wasn't
was too. I'm not going to say who they were, but I remember who they were.
it wasn't even that like I had said something about that like him being incorrect, which he is demonstrably incorrect about
That's
this. It
incorrect.
is what
Yeah.
it is. Fucking make your peace with it. It wasn't even that I had said that. It was that this person was so weirdly egotistical that
Yeah.
they thought I was talking about something they were doing
Yeah.
when I didn't even know who the fuck they were or what they were up to. Like, why would I know what you're doing? Good lord. Like, God fucking save us from people who think they're so important that
Yeah.
everybody just automatically knows what the fuck they're doing.
Yep,
Oh
I know.
God.
I remember who they I like I said, I know exactly who they are because
Oh,
that
okay.
stuff's
I don't even
going and
remember
stuff.
their name or anything. I just remember
It's
they were very angry.
I don't ever see him around anymore. There's that. Anyway.
Yeah. But yeah, that's fucking Twitter,
Yeah,
which is why I just tend to avoid it.
right. Are we
Honestly.
really
Like
gonna
it's
argue
fine.
about this? Here's the numbers. Like, that's that. Like, that's the end of it.
Well,
Like,
it wasn't even that. Again, they thought I was targeting them
right.
specifically because of a thing they were doing that I had no knowledge of.
Well, because
That was the issue.
they're basing their research off of Keel directly, and if you find, any type of logic or reason or questioning within that research, then that means that they're wrong, and
Sure.
they can't
But
have that.
why did they think I was targeting them specifically and their event that just happened to be taking place when I made that tweet? That's the issue. The fact that they thought I knew who they were and cared enough to fucking subtweet about something they were doing was the problem. That is what went wrong there. And then the fact they didn't believe me when I said, I don't know who the fuck you are. Of course, I'm not subtweeting about you. Like, that was the issue. It's just like, what the fuck? I don't know you.
Oh, that's Twitter. That's
Yeah.
social media, let's be honest.
Because people, look, everybody, me included, we're not that fucking important.
Right.
Okay. If somebody says they don't know you, they don't fucking know you. They're not
Right.
lying about it because you're so goddamn important. No, we're not that important, guys. Like, everybody settle down.
Well, it sounds like you had a great weekend.
No, the weekend was fantastic.
Yeah.
So it was exactly what I needed, I think, right now. Being able to see everybody and have some really great conversations, and meet and hang out with people that are great. They're very nice, decent people, and we don't necessarily always agree on everything. But that's the other point, right? You don't fucking have to. You
You
don't
don't
have to
have
agree on
to. I
everything.
know. Isn't that crazy? Like,
Yeah.
it's nice.
Yeah, it is not necessary. For anybody listening, look, agreeing with me is not something that I demand in order to be my friend. I never have, and I never fucking will. As long as like the thing we're disagreeing on isn't like outright bigotry or something, then I don't fucking care. If it's like an opinion on the paranormal, who gives a shit? We can still be friends. Guaranteed. Guaranteed I
I
will not care enough.
I
Like,
can
we can
vouch for
still be
this
friends.
because I hung out with a kind of tipsy Tobias in a hotel room one time who just said, "I'm just nice to people that are nice to me. If you're nice to me, we're friends."
Yeah, that's what it comes down to.
you
Like,
know?
if you're cool, I'm cool, and we will be friends. That's it. That's the only requirement.
Yeah. Same. It's fine. I can have some pretty strong opinions about things,
Well,
but
sure.
I genuinely try to listen more than I try to be right. Because again, I like to learn. I love that shit. Teach me something new that I don't know. Change my mind. And if you can fucking change my mind about something, then you're a rock star. And people have. And I think that's great. Like Tobias changed my mind about the Wednesday phenomenon. So there's that.
Yeah, honestly, that was one of those things because I was a fan of Keel growing up. I was, and I had taken so much of what he had written for granted, and it wasn't until I was an adult and I was doing this professionally that I started to question some of his assumptions, and I started fact checking things. And yeah, there are discrepancies, and that is one of them. And I encourage everybody, hell, it doesn't matter if you're reading one of my books and there's something that you read and you're like, oh, I wonder if that's true. Fucking look it up. Seriously. You
Yeah.
don't have to take somebody's word for it. And if it's not true and they're still alive, tell them, because I would be happy to print a correction if somebody, and I've done it before for articles and stuff. I do my best to fact check. I do take some pride in that. And I do go way out of my way to try to make sure that I'm never printing things that aren't factually correct. But if I do screw up, I want somebody to tell me so I can correct it.
Oh
You
yeah.
know, like it's important.
We'll do it on the show. Fucking
Oh
write
fuck
in,
yeah.
tell us you guys are
I
wrong about this. Okay.
Yeah. I've been
We'll,
wrong before and I'll be wrong again.
we'll tell everybody. Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
but like the mark I think of intellectual honesty is being willing to accept that you have been incorrect and then change your opinion
Mm,
based on new information.
yeah.
It's not that tough.
Yeah, absolutely. I like Keel. There's a
Oh,
lot
of
of
course.
about Keel that I like.
Sure.
Um, but does that mean that Keel was 100% honest and you should take his word as gospel? Absolutely not. I know for a fact that he embellished a lot of the Mothman stuff. I know that now. I didn't know that, right? That's the first thing I read was Mothman prophecies when I got into
Right.
this. For a lot of us it is. You don't know that at first. Who the fuck else are you going to You're not going to know that unless you do the work because then all the other resources that come out afterwards just reference Keel.
Yeah. Basically, like once you get inaccurate information introduced from a popular enough source, then uh, it gets used, it gets recycled so
Yeah,
often that it just starts being shared without question. It
right.
it becomes true within the context of the event, just for the simple sake that people have decided that
Yeah.
it was true,
Yep.
and it's not great because yeah, most people's single fucking source for Mothman stuff is the Mothman prophecies,
Yep.
and that does not paint a complete fucking picture, like not
Nope.
even close.
It doesn't. It doesn't. And but that's why you learn. That's why you got to learn and do the homework and figure it out. You don't have to, I guess, right? You can take Mothman prophecies and go, "That's it. That's what happened."
Yeah,
That's
live your
fine.
life.
Right.
Who
I'll
cares?
go learn it for you and then I'll tell you and then you're going to listen to me and you're like, "Oh, okay, well she's right now. That's what happened."
Sure.
Or
Oh,
whatever.
totally.
Let the bias do it for you?
Right, yeah, I mean, you don't have to do all the work, that's why we're here.
Right. We'll do all
Happy
the
to do it
work
for
and
you.
we're barely getting paid to do it. So, that's nice of us.
Right. It's
Um
it's true. Yeah, if you're looking to profit off of that, you won't.
not nope, not in this lifetime. But no, that's great. That's wonderful. What did I do this weekend? Let me see here. What did I do? I put notes down, right? I did a lot of things that I'm not going to necessarily share with a lot of people.
Alright.
They weren't
Thanks for
fun.
mentioning it.
Yeah, I know, right? And now I gotta now I gotta share it, some of it. I had a mental breakdown over the last week, and that's great. And I'm doing good. It's a good thing. It's not a bad mental breakdown. It's just something that happens, and you have to grow as a person. So things in my general life are going to be a lot different, and that's good. I am the type of person who can suffer a mental breakdown and then find motivation behind it. I'm fortunate in that regard, but I don't sit and fucking sit in my misery and just make everybody else miserable. I'm not that
Sure.
person. I want different and I want better, and so therefore I'm going to do better.
You're a
Uh,
problem solver.
I am. I try to be.
I'm the same
And
way. That's I think that's great.
well, and somebody actually, kind of saw some. I've shared some of my struggles socially. I'm sure you guys have seen, and that's fine if you haven't. That's fine too. But somebody that listens to the show reached out and was like, shocked. They're like, "You're always so positive and great on the show. I had no idea that like you were going through any of this." And it's usually how it is, isn't it? I think it's because people that go through struggle and strife and things like that, you know, you know that that's not people don't fucking come to the show to listen to me bitch about my life. Maybe they
No,
do.
we're professionals. Like, you have to be professional. You have to keep your private shit private
I mean, there's
for the
no
most
reason
part.
to, you know? There's no reason to. However, I think it does help some people to know that, like, y'all, I'm human. I fucking go through it too. You know, we all
Oh
go
yeah.
through it. It's how you handle it. That's important. And, like, few people think that I'm not a hot mess outside of this show. Let me tell you. Thanks. Thank you. That's really nice.
That is nice.
But if I can do it, you can do it. And that's it, really. I just wanted to, all that long winded noise just to say, you can do it too. And I believe in you. So,
I think that's great. That's such a good positive message. And you make a good point because yeah, I mean, look, obviously this podcast does not exist for us to talk about our fucking personal problems,
sure.
and of course, like we try to be professional, at least in the context of the show. For which I know is probably hilarious coming from a guy who just says fuck every other word, but it's true. Like there are things that are considered appropriate for the show and not appropriate for the show because the podcast is not about like my personal problems, but that doesn't
Right.
mean we don't have them. And I do think it is nice every once in a while if you've gone through something to be able to mention that to let the listeners know that if they're going through something too, they're not alone because of course we're human beings and we have our share of fucking problems. I promise you.
Yeah. And I am not so famous that like you can't write to me about them. However, I have my own problems and I cannot be your therapist. I mean, you could tell me invent and I'll listen, but I can't promise you that like we'll sit and talk about it really.
Right.
But if you absolutely need that resource, I'd rather you be alive and listening to the show. Right. And if that's what if that's what it's gonna take for you to reach out to me specifically about your problems, let's talk about it. But yeah, no, I think people connect with the human element that we bring here, and so I just wanted to give a little bit of that. And but again, life is what you make it, and it's how you react to the world around you. Shit sucks, it's hard, life's fucking miserable at times. However, that doesn't mean that you have to be. So I
True.
just hope that somebody hears that and they take it to heart. Maybe that's the sign you needed. Person listening that needed the sign, this is it. Do the thing and be happy and choose yourself, choose to be happy. So that's so I did a lot of that.
Good.
And it helped that I also spent a lot of time watching probably hours and hours and hours of videos about our topic today, Coco. So that was awesome.
It does. I fucking love Coco. We should, if you have news, we should do that first
Yeah.
before we really get into the
Yeah,
main
yeah, yeah, yeah.
topic. But I am such a big fan of today's fucking topic. It's such a good fucking palate cleanser versus like the mind trash we usually fucking sift through.
And I will tell you, I'll give you a taste before we get into the news and stuff. It is gonna get weird. So if you think that this is a weird topic to cover, well, it is, and that's why it's here. I'm so fucking excited about it. So. Let's get over to the news. We'll do the news. We need a news, Nate. We need a news song. We need a theme song first, but then we need a news song at
It should
some
be one of
point.
those ones where it's like da 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 da, like
It's
like
like
leading into the news, like it's like the '70s.
yes, that's yep. Yeah, it needs to be real good. Um, we'll work on that. Nate said he's gonna work on it. Um, I don't really have any typical news. Just a reminder about of course, the Withville UFO Festival happening this weekend, where I will be talking about Injured Cold, and you can clearly catch me there yelling at you awkwardly about my podcast or whatever.
Just chasing after people. Have I
No,
told you about my podcast?
wait, listen to my show. Yeah. That's one time I made a shirt actually, that's and I sold it in the merch shop. It says ask me about my podcast. And I thought it
Nice.
was fucking genius. And I
I'm
bought some.
shocked that you're not a millionaire, and
I
I'm
know,
not
right?
kidding. Like that's a really good idea for a
Such
shirt.
such a good idea. But I've taken the merch down. I might reintroduce it every once in a while. People did like it.
I'm sure somebody who I like has a big T-shirt platform probably just stole your idea,
Oh yeah.
as I'm guessing what happened,
Well, they should. It's a good. Well,
rather
no,
than
I
pay
took
you
I
for it.
took it down, so so I think I can still put it back up. I don't know. Anyway,
Yeah,
it's a great icebreaker. Maybe I'll put it back up there. You guys can buy one. That way, you can have people come to you about your podcast. Right? It's easier.
sure. Or
Um,
tell them about our podcast.
Or at
Um,
least tell them that's why
yeah,
you bought the shirt, you know?
yeah.
Why not?
Well, I'm just saying, if you don't have your own podcast, just tell them about ours.
If you buy and ask me about my podcast T-shirt, you can become a shareholder for on Wednesdays We Talk.
Sure. The
I'll make
value of
like
those shares,
$3 off the
nothing.
shirt, so your official share will be like $1, but that's enough. Anyway, so with the UFO Festival, I'm talking about Indrid Cold. That's everybody's favorite alien in mine. And we will get really weird with it, and then a bunch of other people there too. It really is a very fun event. I've been there. It's my third time
Oh,
in a
wow.
row. Yeah, so I've
How
been there
much does it
since
cost to
yeah.
get in? How much are tickets?
It's free
I
99.
know, which is why I asked. It's fucking free,
Free
you guys. Just
99.
go.
Just
You're
go.
too good for a free event. Just come on.
Apparently,
Come
apparently,
on.
what do you guys got going on down there in Virginia? Come on. Um,
That's better than free? Nothing.
That's better than free. There's a costume contest. You can win a
Nice.
costume and there's like real prizes, like legit prizes. Like come fucking, just do it. Just do it. You won't be sad that you did. Come to my table and tell me that you're there because of the show, and maybe I'll give you something for free again. So there's that. That's what I got. What do you got for the news?
Oh boy, news. Yes. So actually this is a report from the void. So we have that reports from the void column, right? This one is cool. Actually, quick shout out to my buddy Ryan Sprague for sharing this article. You know Ryan from Somewhere in the Skies, right? Like
Yeah,
that podcast. Yeah. So Ryan's a great dude. Yeah, he's been through it lately, but he's fucking awesome and he deserves everybody's support. So, if anybody hasn't checked out his podcast or any of his work, I think if you haven't read his book, check that out. It's the same name as his podcast, so very easy to find. But yeah, anyway, so this is from our reports from the void. I was followed by up to 20 white glowing eyes. It's interesting that this person used the word eyes too, because they really kind of meant orbs, but the orbs were also maybe eyes. It'll make sense. Well, it'll make more sense in
okay.
a second here. Okay, so this is from a report that we received at the Singular Fortean Society via email last year, September 25th, right? And so it's pretty long. So I'll just read parts of it. Okay, to begin, this guy wrote, I was lost out in the Arizona desert last Saturday night, and I was followed by up to 20 white glowing eyes, about 2 feet tall, and along with them were red glowing eyes on a creature 2 to 3 feet tall. They were, I thought, orbs. They seemed to float. They tried to surround me and were around 30 to 40 yards away. They were in threes together, two white eyes and one pair of red glowing eyes. So you see what I'm saying? Like eyes and orbs kinds of like those words get used interchangeably, which is kind of confusing. Um, but he goes on to say that again he was out in the desert. Is very specific about where he was. So he said he was east towards the mountains on the alluvial plain at the Viddoc curve of the Florence Junction east of Phoenix, Arizona. So if you're out that way, I just told you where to go. Maybe you'll see these fucking lights. I have no idea. So turns out this is a homeless person. They describe themselves as homeless who has been camping out there for months and has been seeing these things pretty consistently. And based on the further description that they give, it really seems like they are orbs. Some of them are white. The majority of them are white, and then some of them are red. But they can kind of be mistaken for glowing eyes, or at least this person interpreted them through that perspective. Like just interpreting them sort of as glowing eyes. But
Sure.
really, we're talking about orbs, right? And so they went on to say that they went ahead and recorded some EVP audio and said that they got voices. And when they asked these things, whatever they were, some questions, the few answers that they got according to them, were the words government,
Hmm.
beings, little helpers, and thunderbolt. So make of that what you will. Long story short, the person goes on to say that they've recorded some of these phenomena. They have had friends in the Chicago area that they have called, who have also been able to witness these orbs via video call, and they would be happy for me to come out there and check it out if I am ever in the middle of the desert east of Phoenix, Arizona. And I might take them up on that, but unfortunately, when I replied to the email to try to get them to send any photo or video evidence, which they said they wanted to do. I wasn't trying to be pushy. They said, "Hey, do you have a place I can send you this photo and video evidence that I have?" I responded with an email saying, "Yes, you can just reply to this email." Because what happens is people go to our website and they go to the contact page and they'll fill out that short contact form, and there's no way to attach things to that, and I don't think they know that what happens is that just becomes an email. It's sent to us as in an email from our website host, and so I usually have to respond and say, "Oh, okay, yeah, you can just respond to this email with whatever evidence you have, just attach it." And so I tried to do that, but I got this error message. It bounced back and it said that my
Hmm.
message wasn't delivered because the address couldn't be found or is unable to receive mail. So the reason I think this is interesting, of course, is because this is one of several, well, more than several, one of many strange orb reports that we've received over the past couple years. Some of them will ascribe intelligence to these orbs, whatever the hell they are. Actually, more often than not, at this point, people are describing seemingly intelligent behavior from these orbs, which is fascinating to me because if that's accurate, then we can probably rule out like weird meteorological effects and things like that. If there's some kind of intelligence to it, then it's probably not something as random as some undiscovered or misidentified natural phenomenon. So yeah, I don't know, interesting stuff, and I wanted to share it because it's fascinating, one, and two, of course, if anybody else has seen anything like this, I want to hear about it. You can reach out to us here at the podcast, or of course, you can reach out directly through the Singular Fortean Society. Either is fine.
Yeah. Orbs are kind of becoming the hot new thing, right? I mean, it's not new, but they're
Right.
becoming increasingly popular, I feel like. And I feel like it's because they're probably the most misidentified, and I mean that in the opposite direction. I feel like people see them and they just assume that there's something else, right? A light in the
Sure.
distance, or animal eyes, or whatever, airplane. It depends on where you see it. But I feel like there's definitely been a boom of these reports happening lately, and I hope that continues because I think they're neat.
I do. I also think they're neat, and some of the reports we've got are just fantastic. One of them made it into the holiday book that I wrote because this guy had this weird sighting of these orbs. Like it was on, I want to say Christmas Eve, and it really reminded me of so many other phenomena that exist or have been described in folklore that happen around that time of year. Because you get, especially if you're talking about these sort of swarms of orbs, right? It very much reminds me of things like the wild hunt. Like let's say several hundred years ago, you happen to be out at night, which is rare, and better, but you had to for some reason, and you see these these orangish red lights out in the fucking forest, and they're kind of flying along. Maybe they're all going the same direction, and there's a bunch of them. There's at least several, right? And so it makes sense to me that somebody might see that and interpret that, of course, through the lens of their culture as torchlight. or lantern light or some other evidence for something like a spectral hunt, you know? And if people are seeing these things around that time of the year, which there is evidence for, actually, there's an interesting flap of these orange orb sightings that all occurred around like Christmas Eve and Christmas Day one year. Then I think they could be connected. And I'm not one of those people who's like, oh, everybody in the past is stupid, misinterpreting orbs like a bunch of dummies. No, because I don't think we have everything all figured out now. Like we're just as dumb now as we were then. We just have the benefit of a little more education. But rather, I think that it's just fascinating to me to see the connectivity across time between these seemingly disparate phenomena like the wild hunt or fucking orbs and UFOs and shit, right? It's just good stuff. It's just good fun.
It is. Yeah, I like it. I enjoy it. As much as I probably have plugged them over here, I'm going to plug them again. If you guys aren't following Wild and Weird West Virginia, you need to be. So one of the things that they were talking about during the Mothman workshop, because they're the ones that put it on, is about radiation and how that how that plays into the paranormal, and how a lot of the times you'll have these cases of things that people see, and radiation becomes a part of it. um, and they have this like saying, and it's fun. They're fun guys. Go listen to them. But it's don't chase the orbs. And it's because they theorize that the orbs are giving off a dangerous level of radiation. And it's really interesting when you start digging down that rabbit hole, because then like you get into the Stanford University professor who was studying the brain scans of US pilots who had encountered UFOs, who seem to have some type of radiation issues. Or you get into things like Havana syndrome, which people think involves potentially some type of radiation. It's interesting. Anyway, I
Sure.
digress. That's a topic for another day, but there's a lot more to it than just strange lights.
Right. I will add, and then we can be done.
Sure.
But that witness that I referenced, the Christmas Eve sighting, he did come down with conjunctivitis
Yep.
in both eyes
Hmm.
after that sighting, and it was very close. He got out of his car. These things were close enough where he probably could have touched one if he wanted to. And the next day, he woke up and his eyes were very red and sore and irritated,
Hmm.
which easily could be the case if there was some form of radiation involved there. So
Yep.
interesting.
Yep. And exactly, that's definitely a part of it. And people hear radiation and they automatically think of like nuclear waste or like
Chernobyl.
Chernobyl, right? Right.
Yeah.
There's different types of radiation, and UV radiation is one of them. Like that can absolutely happen. And what causes conjunctivitis? Usually, it's UV radiation.
Yeah.
Um, so it's a whole thing. Maybe we'll make an episode of it one
I
day.
think we should.
We'll talk about it a little bit more. But yeah, it's very cool, very cool. That's a good one. I like it.
Hell yeah. So that was my news this week. Does that mean that we get into the show topic? Do we
We
get
get
to
to talk.
finally talk about my favorite gorilla?
We do.
Get your
Uh,
stinking paws off me, you damn dirty ape!
This is the one ape that could put her stinking paws all over me.
don't say
She
that.
Well, you know what I mean. Not in a weird way, you perverts, but like, in like a hug. Or she could pick me up and gently rock me like a baby. That would be fine. Unfortunately, she's passed away, but
Yeah.
um, I would have let her do that
Oh
10 years
yeah.
ago. No problem.
Absolutely. Um yeah, this is going to be we kind of promised it when we talked about Travis, who is on the opposite end, right? He's a bad monkey. This is a good monkey. Um
The best part is neither one of them are monkeys.
they're not. No. Neither one. Neither one. But we kind of teased it back then, and I thought it would be a good idea to talk about Coco, and Tobias thought it was a good idea to talk about Coco, and we love Coco here, so why not?
I've loved Coco
Um
since I was a little kid, and I got Coco's Kitten,
oh yeah.
which was a picture book about Coco and her adopted little kitten, All Ball. And we'll get into that in a second. I don't want to jump ahead too much, but that's just so everybody knows. This love runs deep for me, like 40 years deep. So
So, this is what I'll say. uh, full disclaimer right here, for anybody. Sometimes it really sucks doing this show. The first time it happened to me was during the when me and Pato deep dive the Denver airport conspiracies, because like there's a big blue horse with big blue balls outside of the airport. It's got to be satanic, right? It's fucking weird. And it turns out it was a big nothing burger. Um, there's a lot of debate about Coco. We're going to get into it. And there's some things that may have ruined my innocence a little bit, but I think it's fun and quirky, and we're going to talk about that too.
it's a lot of
Um,
humbugs, is what it is. A
you
lot of
know,
buzzkills, a lot of haters.
there are, yes, and that is the stance that I'm taking on it. It's just a lot of haters. Fuck them. But we'll talk about it because that's what we do here is give you the
Yes,
good, bad, and the ugly. So this is not a Coco hate episode. This is absolutely a Coco love episode. And I'm going to make my case, and I'm sure Tobias will too. So
sure.
let's uh let's get into it. Who is Coco the Gorilla? Pull up my notes here because I did take some. So born Hanabiko, I think that's how you say it, Hanabiko. She
Sounds right.
and at the I think it was the San Francisco Zoo. I don't know why I didn't put it in here. Um,
You were right. It is a San Francisco Zoo.
I told you hundreds of hours of videos. I promise. Hundreds. Even if there aren't hundreds in the weekend, I watched them. She was born on guess what, July 4th, which is obviously the real reason we celebrate July 4th. I always thought.
Yes,
So her name directly means I think it's fireworks child or something along those lines. It's some Japanese name. However, that is pretty long for a gorilla to say. And as you know, eventually, they wanted to teach her how to talk. They didn't at first. Coco's birth was kind of, I'm not going to say it was immaculate, but it was definitely a big deal because her mother, first of all, kept having issues with miscarriages, and then on top of that, would then kill whatever baby she had birthed. And Coco was the first one she did not kill. So that's special in and
it's a
of itself.
miracle.
It's a miracle she wasn't killed. However, she became very, very, very sick about 6 months into her life. And between, some people say 6 months, some people say a year. Sometime between that time period, she was sent off to go live with Francine, what's her name, Patterson, in order to get nursed back to health. She was kind of dependent at that point on humans and couldn't really live with the other gorillas, or she would die.
Right.
And Francine, who goes by Penny, she does eventually take it upon herself to do some studies, right? She's going to have this gorilla in her care, then she might as well do some studies on it. And let me make this clear, Francine's background is in psychology, it's not in primatology or zoology
Right.
or anything like that. Um,
Developmental psychology.
right. So this was kind of her big thing, right? She was going to teach a gorilla human behavior, at least see how far she could go with it. This wasn't a novel idea, really, at the time. There had been several chimpanzees who had learned sign language, right? There were a couple of cases beforehand. However, none of them would develop the vocabulary that Coco would have. And then none of them made any inferences or displayed emotion like she did. It was very personal for Coco, whereas the chimps were just simply doing it due to their conditioning. It was basically a cool parlor trick. So, Coco, of course, is a Western lowland gorilla. She ended up learning over a vocabulary of over 1,000 signs
Yep.
and could understand over 2,000 words spoken to her. Um,
Which is a lot, really. Like that's the
it is.
equivalent of at least a human toddler.
Yeah, it is. So they would say, so she had actually done a couple of IQ tests, which were kind of weird and debatable because she's not a human, and IQ tests are geared towards humans, and especially the age range that she was being tested for, more like human babies and toddlers.
Right.
But they said that she had an IQ anywhere between 70 to 90, which is pretty damn. I mean, it's not
That's like
great.
Forrest Gump. That's pretty
That's
good.
right. That's
I'm just saying. I think his IQ in the movie was like 80.
and look how successful he was.
That dude met the president.
Right. And
He was a hero.
he had to pee. I love that movie. It's got issues, but there's a I mean, it's
Sure.
rightfully so. Anyway, great film. Watch Forrest Gump if you have it somehow. Um, no, it was super impressive. She ended up, you know, being just a fucking kind of a marvel, right? This was a groundbreaking science for us at this time because she was so well at speaking, and not just she was so well at speaking. She would actually make her own signs. She would, for instance, I think the most popular is that, for she didn't, there's no sign for ring. So she called it a finger bracelet, which is
Yep.
accurate. That's right. She would, they were teaching other gorillas how to sign as well. And, we'll kind of talk about that a little bit, but not much. But she would like encourage them, they would do a sign and they would get it right. And she would be like, hey, good sign,
Right.
like,
Which is and that doesn't sound that impressive to people, but you have to understand that the use of meta language like that, uh, her using language to discuss language is very advanced. That is not something that you would expect out of anything but a fucking human being.
right. Right. She was, discussing things that were that made sense for the situation. And, we'll kind of talk about that a little bit. Of course, some of it was like very pointed and obvious. Like I said, a finger bracelet for a ring, which was awesome, that she could make that connection, right? She understood that. And
Right.
that's something that we had assumed all this time that animals were not capable of. And emotion, is another big thing. So let's talk about our kitten. Let's talk
Love
about
that fucking
Coco's
kitten.
kitten. I know. The most famous kitten of all time, I think, next to the most famous gorilla of all time. Christmas of 1983, Coco asked for a kitten. And, being that she was a 270-pound gorilla, they didn't really think that was a wise decision. And I don't blame them, that makes sense. These are gorillas. We've talked about apes that are angry in the past, and they can be very dangerous. But Coco was not. Anyway, they got her a stuffed kitten. She was pissed. She wasn't pissed, but she was upset, and she
She
told
was
everybody
disappointed.
that. She would tell everybody she would sign, sad, frown, cry. She wasn't happy with the stuffed kitten. She wanted a real kitten. So for her birthday that year in July, she got to go and pick out her own kitten, which she rightfully named Oddball. It was a gray minx, and she named him Allball because when he curled up, he looked like a ball. So even
Yeah,
like the
he's all ball.
he's all ball. I thought it was because he had huge balls, but maybe not.
I don't. Okay, Coco is innocent. That is, she does not think that way, you guys.
Okay, keep telling yourself that. We'll
Yeah,
get there.
nobody can take this away from me.
All ball. But no, I mean, but that makes sense, right? Again, it's very, very literal, right?
Sure.
That's a great name for a cat, all ball. And all ball, brace yourself. Got out of the enclosure one day and got hit by a car.
I hate
And
that.
I do too. I hate it. I do. And they had to tell Coco, and she was again signing away, sad, cry, frown, bad. She was very upset about this. She, did not take too kindly to it. However, she then got two more kittens, and she went on to have a whole bunch of other kittens after that. She was like that was like her thing. She was the cat lady of the gorilla world.
Sure. Well, you think about it. I mean, Coco lived to be 46.
Yeah,
And cats live decent, like a decent amount of time, but they don't live to be 46.
no,
So yeah, she's gonna have several cats. Now, Okay, All Ball, that was a solid name. But then she gets these new cats, Lips and Smokey. Yeah. I mean, Smokey, okay, I get, but Lips? Now, it's speculated that like the reason she named this cat Lips is because it was, again, these are both Manx cats, right? And so Lips was orange. And so they thought that it was because of lipstick. Like she was a similar color to like lipstick or something. So who knows though? But Lips. I
Lips.
mean, yeah, if you were gonna make a pervy joke, Lips was the one you wanted to wait for.
That's fair. Missed my opportunity. Damn it. See, that's what happens when you try to be funny. You're not funny.
Yeah, you just jumped the gun
I
on
know.
my boy All Ball too. You know,
Oh well.
he didn't even get to live a full cat life.
No, unfortunately, he did not. But she was. Oh, I mean, that was her thing. So she got very famous, not just because she used sign language, but because she was featured in National Geographic twice, two different occasions. The first one being the famous she takes a selfie with essentially a selfie with the camera, but the second being her cuddled up with this teeny little tiny kitten. And you guys, I don't think understand exactly how, you know, crazy that is that this giant fucking gorilla, is gentle enough, to be able to parent a kitten. I mean, usually they would rip them apart. Yeah, I'm gonna pause and wait for Tobias to figure out what's going on.
Oh yeah, if anybody could hear that in the background, I actually muted my mic real quick
You
because
did?
there's like a tornado siren going off. This happens all the time. There's no tornado anywhere near us. If it goes off like anywhere, okay, if there's a tornado spotted anywhere in the county, like our tornado siren goes off, it's fucking sunny here. I don't. It's fine.
Okay. If you're fine, then that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. You'll know if I get carried off by a tornado.
That'd be sweet. We would probably get lots of views, right?
Yeah,
Um
maybe.
Pretty good.
Fingers crossed. Yeah.
Natural
Oh boy.
disaster. Right, if that happens, it's got to be worth it. Fuck.
Oh, totally.
Um anyway, so like I was saying, the fact that she was so gentle with this little kitten was such a big deal, and it really is. I mean, again, the last time we talked about apes, we talked about one that was ripping people's faces off.
Oh,
So
you wish he ripped your face off. Goes right for the dick every time.
every time, every time,
Do
and
not want war.
But they
that's
do. Those chimps do want war.
they do, they do, they do. Um, but Coco was not like that. She wasn't cut that way.
No,
She
she was
just
a sweetheart.
wanted to love, right? She very much wanted to love and be nurturing and be nice, and she just loved cats, and who doesn't?
Yeah, especially kittens, you know? And you're right. She was very gentle. And like I mentioned before, um, okay, so viewing things as an adult, it's clear to see that Coco was very well marketed. She was.
She was.
Because my introduction to Coco was the book Coco's Kitten that I mentioned earlier, and that was a picture book uh, targeted at children. They came out in like 1985. So I legitimately would have been like 5 when this book came out. I think I got it from like a Scholastic book fair. So I might have personally been like 6 or so, maybe 7 when I actually got it because I don't know that we were doing Scholastic book fairs in kindergarten. Um, but anyway, it's this picture book and it's all about Coco with her kitten, and it's basically chock full of her being gentle with a kitten, and there's nothing not to love about it. And if you're a little kid, it's the greatest thing you've ever seen, because then you read this book and you find out that not only does this gorilla love fucking adorable kittens, but she can talk, and she has sentience, but furthermore she has sapience, and she's able to formulate complex ideas and emotions, and in many ways is human, and that's what's being described, right? Is this human like intelligence and emotional depth, which is all you want as a kid. A fucking gorilla
Right.
that could be your best friend who's super smart and loves you. Like who every kid loved that book.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
we all wanted to hang out with Coco. All of
Yeah.
us.
It was a big deal at that time. We watched the one of the documentaries at that time, which I tried to find again, and I couldn't fucking find it. Um, but yeah, I mean, they showed it to us in school. It was, Coco was a big deal to kids.
Yeah.
She was, a real life superhero. Uh, it's-
Kinda.
yeah, she really was. And she was a fantastic ambassador for things like wildlife conservation, which was, when I was a kid in the '90s, that was huge. That was a big deal. Save the planet.
Sure.
It
Well, I
it
mean,
should.
you have to think about too, gorillas especially. They were on the brink of extinction. I mean, they're still not doing great, but it was a big issue in ecology.
Yeah,
Like you got to save the fucking gorillas,
yeah,
and so people really cared about it. And if nothing else, if you don't believe or care about any other aspect of Coco's life, like the fact that the Gorilla Foundation was able to spread as much awareness as they were through the this ambassador of Coco, I think it was big. I think it was huge.
yeah.
Celebrities got involved. Like it was a whole thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And we'll get to the
Sure,
to the skeptical side of it all, because we have to. I have to do it justice, and talk about it. But yeah, I mean, she definitely had a lot of personality. One of the indicators that she was kind of her own being, and using these signs on her own was her lies that she told.
or
So,
jokes.
or jokes. She did tell really good jokes. She had a very distinct sense of humor, that, once you kind of watch hundreds of hours of Coco videos, you start to get. But
Right.
she had two pretty, I guess, not famous instances, but well known instances where she told a lie, and I want to bring up both of them for a very specific reason. So the first one was, she had sat on a sink, I think, in like a camper or something, and she's a big girl, and she broke it, and it wasn't her fault. She wasn't in trouble, but when asked about it, she blamed another caretaker there. Her name was Kate. She said Kate did it. And they knew that Kate was not almost a 300-pound gorilla who broke the sink, so they were aware that she was lying. And in another instance, she had broken a toy that she had in her enclosure, and I think it also was a cat or something, some plastic toy, maybe a baby doll or something. And instead of just saying that she had broken it, she said, "Well, she said that Kate did it."
Man, fuck Kate, I guess.
Right. Like, Coco really had it out for Kate. I don't
Yeah,
know.
fuck
She
Kate. All
just
my homies hate Kate.
maybe it was Kate. She's just a bad person. I don't know. She was jealous of the gorilla and was breaking the sink and the toys, and fuck her. But I thought it was hilarious that it was Kate every time. Now that's probably because Kate was around.
Sure,
But I want to believe that there's some bad blood there between Coco and Kate. They didn't like each other. So, that was definitely a big indicator, because she was able to cognitively put together enough that, like, maybe she could lie and get away with it. Now they weren't good lies, but she tried it, and
sure.
they were innocent. And then, of course, with the naming of her animals, they also had a like a macaw, like a parrot, who hung out at the Gorilla Foundation, and um he was mostly red, and she called him Devil Tooth. That was his
Hmm.
name. And because he was red, so she associated him with the devil, I guess. And because his beak, was
Yeah,
like a big
got like a
tooth.
long white beak.
And she was like, "Oh, it's a tooth." She uses the devil a lot. One of her jokes is for her to say that she is the devil. I love that. Any woman
Oh
that tells
boy.
me she's the devil, I believe her.
There's going to be a whole new conspiracy theory about this now, where
Oh,
Coco's the fucking devil and it's part of demonic Hollywood fucking,
Of
I don't
course.
know, child
It's the satanic
adrenal
cabal.
harvesting cult or whatever.
Yeah. She was well, right, you get all these kids interested in Coco, right? They
Mhm.
all wanna meet her. They
You
all
get
wanna get in her cage.
celebrities involved, and then you get the kids to go meet
Mhm.
Coco, but really you just drug them and you steal whatever that shit is that they are supposed that the evil Hollywood Satanists are supposed to steal from kids to keep themselves young. The
Yep.
fuck's it called? It's like adrenochrome or something.
Adrenochrome. Yeah, you got it. That's
Yeah.
what it is.
No, it's
That's
totally real and not at all made up.
not at all. Totally real. And we know because it was Coco, and Coco was trying to tell us the whole time that
Right?
she
She
was the
was not a
devil.
willing participant.
She was just another pawn in their scheme. But no, she would say stuff like that. She would like joke. She would tell Penny that she was a gorilla. They're very innocent jokes. This is like shit that you laugh about with your toddler.
Sure.
And it is lots of fun to just be silly. It's just silly. And Coco was very very silly. So if you guys haven't watched the again hundreds of hours of videos, go ahead. They're very entertaining. They are lots of fun. But let's talk
You
about
can
something that makes people uncomfortable when it
Well,
comes to
hold on,
Coco.
just real quick before that.
Oh,
Just to
okay.
sell these videos even more, the shit she does, it is uncanny. Like you can see her like playing with one of those viewfinder toys, and
Yeah,
she can just operate it. And she
yeah,
puts the slides in that she wants to see. It's fucking crazy. You'll see her like pouring herself a glass of water, like mixing her own breakfast and stuff. Like look, it's pretty fucking convincing, is all I'm saying. Like there's
yeah.
something special here.
Agreed. I agree. Hardcore. Hardcore. She just is like a human. She's like a human being. And at some point while I was watching these videos, I kind of stopped myself and I'm like, because she is a lot like a child. She's got very childlike wonder just in the things she talks about, and what's important to her and what she does. But then I have to go, holy shit, it's wrong of me, right? Because she's an adult. Isn't that wrong to think she's a child? It is. That part's kind of fucked up. I should respect the fact that she was an adult gorilla.
Oh, I suppose, and we'll probably talk about this more later. I think that in general, she was respected as an adult gorilla. You know, as far as
Yeah, I
that
agree with
goes,
that.
like they
Yeah.
had plans for her to be able to mate and all this other shit. So
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, right. That was they did plan to do that. So, let's kind of talk about that.
yeah,
So in 2005, Coco ended up being the subject of a sexual harassment suit
that was so stupid. But yes, please continue.
filed by two women who worked for the foundation at the time. Um, you know, s- some things, it was more so these women weren't really coming after Coco. Coco does not know enough. She knows a lot. She doesn't really understand enough to be sexually harassing people.
Coco knows that she loves nipples.
Coco loves nipples. And I've got
Who doesn't?
so much proof here. Yeah, right, exactly. For how much I think she genuinely did really like nipples. Um, but Penny would kind of feed into this in a very unhealthy way.
Yeah.
Whenever new women would come along, she would be like, "Oh, she wants to see your nipples." She would be like, "Oh, she said about the one girl, "Oh, Coco, you've seen my nipples enough. I'll turn around and so can show you their nipples. I'm not going to
Can
name
you
them
imagine?
for
Can you imagine going someplace and like you get to see this cool gorilla, and all of a sudden the handler's just like, go ahead, show her your nipples," and you're just
yeah.
like, I don't know, show the ape your fucking nipples. You're just like, fine, fuck.
Okay, I guess so.
You're crying the whole time. Yeah,
If you insist. And then Coco's just like, nice, good, nice,
yeah. Coco's
happy
sitting there like, yes, good, good nipples.
nipples. And yeah, no, it was fucking weird. It was really weird. They did settle that lawsuit out of court. There was a third woman that came and filed another lawsuit. Uh specifically about the nipples. And it got kind of weird for the woman. There was an instance where the woman was told that she did show Coco her nipples earlier that day, and then later on was asked by Penny. She said that Coco wanted her to come into her enclosure and wanted to, have some alone time with her, so she did. And the woman claims that Coco was signing things like, hey, take your hair down. Hey, lay down with me. Hey, show me your breasts. Hey, close your eyes.
I don't
And
I don't know
well,
what to say about that.
okay, so hold on. So I did find this quote from Jane Goodall. Okay,
Uh,
not this one. Um, and no, Nate, we're not slut shaming the gorilla or the people that show their titties to gorillas. That's fine. But Jane Goodall had mentioned at some point, this matters. When she met Coco, she didn't talk about nipples at all. But one of the questions that she asked Coco was about an argument, not an argument, but a discussion she had with her students about whether or not animals are more intimidated if you're standing up or sitting down. And so
right.
she asked Coco, what did you prefer? What do you prefer? And Coco said she prefers people to lie down,
Yes.
which makes sense. You're way less threatening when you're laying down. Actually,
Yeah.
you are then vulnerable.
Right.
Um,
I think I must have read the same thing because I
yeah.
remember that specifically.
So, in this context, but when you're talking about a new handler that's coming in or a new volunteer, or new whatever, and they're coming in, this big gorilla who also happens to be obsessed with nipples for not sexual reasons, just who knows why. Nipples are cool, you know. It is telling you to lie down and show me your nipples. It's not necessarily because it's threatening and she's trying to be sexual. It's
Sure.
just because that maybe that made her feel more comfortable. And something like nipples is something that is very, very natural for us to find enjoyable because that is our first food source. you
Yeah,
know?
right. Well, I think about it like this, right? Like Coco doesn't wear clothes, you know?
Right.
Like it's probably weird to see other apes wear like other primates rather wearing clothes, right?
Yeah.
Like that's fucking weird. And so maybe it makes her more comfortable,
Right.
she especially if we're talking about other like other women, like of
Right.
like other female primates. She's like, "Oh, well, okay, like this is what I look like. Let me see what you really look like."
Right. Yeah. It's not necessarily, I mean, ape or gorillas don't have like nipple play and stuff, like we do.
No.
So it's not sexual to them. It's just a food source. Like it's very biological. And so it's not necessarily weird. However, my favorite part of the nipple discussion, and then we'll move on,
Sure.
is one time Penny and Coco were in an AOL chat room answering questions. And there is somebody, and I was trying to like figure out exactly how this worked. I don't know if it was Penny typing. I don't think it was. I think somebody else was the stenographer and they were dictating what's being said. And Coco mentioned nipples no less than 14 times during this whole chat. And it was like, Penny's like, "Okay, Coco, I'm going to tell you what we're going to do. We're going to answer these people's questions and we're going to talk." And then Coco would just say, "Nipples."
Yeah.
You can find the complete chat log. It's great. It's fucking hilarious. At one point, somebody had asked what Coco's going to have for dinner. And while Penny's describing it, she's like, "Nipples." And it's awesome because that is, you know what? Coco knew how to use AOL chat rooms before the rest of us did. She
Yeah, right.
was, she knew what she was doing.
That sounds like some toddler level fucking humor, really.
Nipples.
But I mean, I guess when it comes to that whole situation, of course it's impossible for me to blame fucking Coco. But if like assuming everything happened the way that these women said it did, and I'm willing to assume that, then I think you have to really consider like how Penny could have handled that differently because it does seem weird to be so insistent about it. And I
Yeah.
don't know that it was malicious in any way. It could just as easily have been awkward nerd shit, where she's just this awkward nerd who's lived with a fucking gorilla for 20 years. And so it's just totally normal to her. And she's like, "No, it's totally normal. We all do it." But then, like, all the normal people are like, "I don't think you know what normal is anymore, lady who lives with the fucking
True.
gorilla.
Yeah.
Because this is fucking weird and I don't like it." So, but, because I don't know without more information, I think it would be difficult to speculate on what Penny's motivation would have been, other than just being an awkward fucking nerd in that situation.
Right.
Like, I guess look around for hidden cameras or something. If somebody, when somebody's asking you to take your shirt off, yes, look for cameras first and foremost. But in the absence of that, I mean, I don't know. I'm struggling to see why she would have done that, other than that she just was didn't know how to interact with other people on this specific topic very well or appropriately at all.
Well, and Penny kind of got a little wise to it, and I think that's where people feel weird about it because she would then go on to say that Coco wasn't actually saying nipples; she was saying people, and it rhymes, so she was getting confused with the two. I don't think so. I think Coco really meant nipples, and I think that Penny was just trying to use it. When she started realizing that it was making people feel fucking weird, I think she was just trying to be like, we're not going to talk about that. So my grandma tells me this hilarious story about where she took my dad and a friend of hers, toddler, to go see Santa Claus. And while they're seeing, and they're both like two, and the friend, not my dad, but the friend, the other kid, hated Santa. And when he gets on Santa's lap, the kid starts screaming. He's crying and he starts screaming, fuck you" to Santa. And the mom is like, Don't stop telling that nice man to shut up." And my grandma leans in and she goes, "I think everybody knows that he's not saying shut up." And that's what the nipples and people thing reminds me of. Like,
I
it's
could see that.
clear, she's saying nipples, but I think she's just trying to save face, which is
Sure.
fine because you learn, I guess, and people do that. Um, kids especially is like a thing you do that with. I got into an elevator with a lady and her toddler, and he fucking pissed his pants right in front of all of us. And she's like, "Oh, you got your pants wet in the sprinkler?" Like, lady, we all know he pissed himself. It's fine.
Right.
Uh, it happens. But to kind of fuel that a little bit more, that it was actually Coco that just for whatever reason, and had a fascination with nipples, not sexually, just because. Robin Williams talks about it. He's got a joke about
Sure.
it. How she wanted to see his nipples and was clinging on to him and stuff, but he wasn't weird about it. He was just like, whatever, it's cool. And Robin Williams had a great time with Coco, and there was nothing sexual about it.
Sure. Well, okay, I am not in any way denying that Coco had a fascination with nipples. The only point I'm really trying to make about it all is that if what these women are saying is true, and again, I very much will assume that they are authentically relating their experience, then the obvious fault for me is with Penny for
Yes.
insisting that they show their fucking nipples when
Hmm.
she could have just been like, "Yeah, this is weird. So if you're comfortable, by all means, go ahead and show her your nipples. But otherwise, like, it's cool. We can just work around it." You know what I mean?
Right, like, I
Like,
get
I
it's
feel
weird
like
for
Penny
you, it's
handled
not
it
weird
in
for
the
us. If you
yeah,
want to
like
do it, do it.
yeah, Penny handled it in the weirdest, fucking most
Yes.
awkward nerd way possible.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. My argument is more because there are some people that think that Coco didn't actually like nipples, and
Sure.
I think there's enough evidence to show otherwise, but it
Yeah.
doesn't mean that it's sexual. It's
No.
okay that she liked nipples, like, and that's what I'm
Agreed.
saying. Like, it's
Yes.
fine and
Totally
not
agree.
weird.
It's not weird. I
You
like
know,
nipples if you
oh,
want.
right? Nipples are fine. Like I said, it's our first food source. It's natural to like nipples, right? So it's fine. It's very Freudian, not Freudian, but Freudian.
Sure.
Anyway, so back to a little bit more of the um oh, you know what? No, there's one thing I do want to talk about. Couldn't really fit it in my notes very easily, so it may seem a little out there, especially coming off the nipple talk. But I talked about we would kind of talk about some of the other gorillas that Coco was involved with on a friendly level. The first one being Michael,
Mhm.
who joined her enclosure, and the intention was for them to mate. They never did. They did
Right.
eventually become really good friends, but she didn't ever have any offspring with anybody. But with Michael, he was also learning sign language. I guess this will be a good segue into the next point that we cover. He was also learning sign language, and one of the more shocking things that happened is that Michael told a story about what happened to his parents. And it's a very disturbing, piece. So, skip ahead, I don't know, like 5 minutes or something. But the reason why that's important is because Michael was not born in captivity like Coco was. He was born in Africa, and claims what Michael says happened is that his parents were shot by people and, eaten by people. And that was like jarring. You had all this fun and feel good and great stuff with the story of Coco. And then all of a sudden you have Michael fucking enter the chat and tells this like horrible story about something that he experienced. Which I feel like kind of always painted Michael in like a bad light. And I know that's weird, but like he wasn't nearly as famous as Coco. He wasn't as
Yeah.
good as Signing. But I feel like a lot of people viewed him negatively because he had this past, and we don't even know for sure if that's accurate or not,
That's so fucked up to judge Michael based on that too. I mean,
It's not his
obviously,
fault.
yeah, of course not. And the reason that these gorillas were in captivity in the first place was because of the encroachment into their natural habitat by humans, many of which were fucking poachers.
Right.
And so it doesn't surprise me at all
Yeah.
that he would remember his parents being killed. They probably were fucking killed, and it was probably by poachers. And I don't know that he would have seen them eat them, but maybe he assumed that that's why they were killed because that's the only
Right.
reason he could think of why you would kill something is
Right, because
if
that's why we
if you're
kill,
going to eat
right.
it. Yeah,
Right, that's what he thinks. He kills for food, and so
right.
therefore that's what it is. But no, I agree. I mean, nobody ever, like, I don't think anybody's ever outright come out and said, "Oh, Michael's bad," but I just get that air about it whenever
Yeah,
anybody talks about him. And I think that's real unfortunate because he was, also learning very much alongside Coco and what was going on. And I kind of remember that when I watched whatever documentary it was as an elementary school kid. Um, they kind of made Michael out to be like barbaric and unhinged, and because they talk about, oh, they didn't get along at first. They got along just fine. They just
yeah,
horseplayed because he was a young gorilla. That's
right.
what they
Yeah,
do.
there's like right away. There's tons of footage of them like wrestling and playing and stuff. There's nothing
They're
wrong with
having a
that.
good time, right? And so, but I remember that vividly, and I never really understood it. And I think that's part of it, as weird as that is. So we fucking even stereotype gorillas, guys. We're
Yeah.
terrible.
People are just fucking the worst.
They
Like,
are the
good lord. Well,
worst.
and yeah, people should never remember, like, should never forget. Rather, like, you can never forget that. Again, all of this is happening because humans are a terrible plague on the earth,
Right.
and as a result of that, gorillas as a species are struggling to fucking survive.
Yeah.
That is what led to all of this. So every gorilla, every single fucking one of them, has this tinge of sadness to their story because they all have that in common, and
Yeah.
it's fucked.
Right. It's and you know what? It's probably again, like you said, it's a very believable story that he actually did witness that. Like, because that's what happens, right? That's just what happens. And
Yeah,
it is terrible. And that is the relationship that they have with humans anyway. So, just a nugget, a little sidebar. If you're going to take that with you into like, say, cryptozoology, maybe there's a reason why some of these animals fucking avoid us like the plague.
sure.
They don't necessarily remember, but when they evolve, just like we're afraid of spiders, right? It's because we have evolved to be afraid of them. Maybe they do the same thing. Maybe not. Who knows? But something to think about.
Speaking of cryptozoology, I've been waiting. Can we finally just acknowledge that Penny has the same last name as Roger Patterson?
We can, we can,
Okay,
and they
so
both live in California, right?
right.
She's. I mean, isn't that
Uh,
weird?
Gorilla Bigfoot connection? Does it exist? Is Coco part Sasquatch? I don't know, but I'm willing to say she is on a podcast.
She is, yeah. Definitely. Why not? She's. I mean, she's part of the government conspiracy. Why not the fucking Bigfoot conspiracy too? Let's throw that in there.
Sure,
But yes, absolutely, she does. And there could be relation. I don't know. I never met these people. Penny's still alive, by the way, so I'm not going to talk too much shit about her.
No, I'm
Um,
not gonna talk any shit about her. I have no problem with this person.
right. That's exactly. I mean, she's not, and just because someone's alive doesn't mean when they die you can talk shit about them either. But anyway, I'm just saying, I'd like to talk to her. I think she's very interesting.
Yeah.
Um, I'd like to see her nipples.
Just show us the nipples. Just let us, yeah, let us get at them nips, so we're all comfortable.
For nothing sexual, right? That's just how you introduce yourself, I
No,
guess.
I'll take my shirt off right now if it will put you at ease. It usually has the opposite effect, which is why I don't. But
I know, right? I feel that. It's like, okay, I don't know why y'all are uncomfortable. I'm very
right,
comfortable with my no
yeah,
shirt. Uh,
I was trying to calm everybody down by taking my shirt off, and it's just
oh, it made it
had the
worse.
total opposite effect.
Sorry. But we'll talk about the controversy surrounding Coco and the science surrounding Coco and her language. Let's get to the fun part now.
Sure.
If you do happen to watch all the hours of videos, you will find a bunch that claim that Coco actually couldn't talk at all, and we're just silly. I
Trying
know,
to think of
right?
those.
And I agree, but for argument's sake, let's go ahead. Let's present their case for him a little bit. What they say about it is that it's basically akin to how you teach your dog to sit, right? It's just conditioning. It's actually, I think it's called operational conditioning or something like that. Uh,
Yes,
I put it in my notes. Yeah, I know what operant conditioning rather.
operant. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Is what that is. And again, it's the same thing as, just teaching any animal any trick whatsoever, right? They understand that if they do a certain thing, they will get a reward. Much like I'm sure you've seen, we'll talk about something people don't talk about. Elephants painting. Elephants will paint pictures of like other elephants and shit, and it's so sweet, and you're like, oh. But the reality is that they have been taught to do that very vigorously and with lots of reward. So it's not that they are painting a picture of an elephant because they want to, it's because that's the only picture they can paint because that's what they were taught to paint.
Okay.
um
I mean, how do we teach? How do we teach our kids anything? We
well,
use the
that's
same
true.
fucking thing. We do the same
We
goddamn
do.
thing.
Yep,
But for us,
absolutely.
it's all free will and sapience and intelligence.
Yeah.
But if you try to use positive reinforcement to teach any other animal, oh, they're basically biological robots.
Right. Right. It's just no, they don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Well, that's not necessarily true. People criticize the fact that, like, well, Coco was just doing it for food. Okay. I
Most of what I
ju-
do is for food.
right. I just work at my job 5 days a week for food. I don't want to be there,
Right.
but if I want food, I had better. I mean, I go to the grocery for food. I don't want to be around those people. Have you seen people
Sure.
at the grocery? They're terrible.
But
Um,
also, like that argument falls apart immediately if you actually see Coco conversing with Penny
I
or
agree.
anybody. But most of the footage is going to be her talking with Penny. There is no obvious reward system. It's not. It doesn't exist. Where the fuck is it?
Yeah, I agree.
And the responses are appropriate to the situation.
Yeah.
You know, there is so much more evidence in favor of some kind of conscious determination rather than trained response that this whole operant conditioning thing is just fucking ludicrous to me. You know what it sounds like? It sounds like those fucking assholes who just come out of the woodwork anytime anything happens to try to be the smartest fucking person in the room by shitting all over whatever that thing is.
Well, actually, yeah, those
Yeah,
people. Yeah, no,
exactly.
I know, I know. Have you read fucking Jacques Vallée? I have. So, not everybody
I
has.
love Jacques Vallée.
Well, not everybody has. Come on.
Oh, okay, okay. So you're saying yes, like a person. So for the record, we both think Jacques Vallée is great. I love him. I love his work. We're talking about somebody who had butted into a conversation
Yeah.
to like humble brag or try to show their expertise by saying, "Well, if you had read Jacques Vallée," it's like motherfucker. I've been reading Jacques Vallée for like 20 years. It's just get out of here, go away.
I like to humble them just a little bit for a second, but in an asshole way. I'm like, what? Who's that? Is that somebody important?
Right? How do you spell that again?
Valet, right?
Yes. Yes, Jacques Vallée will be bringing your car around
Yeah.
shortly, ma'am.
No, yeah, no, exactly. I agree. I feel like these people do that. None of them are I'm not going to say none of them. There have been people that are degreed that are like, yeah, this is not happening. That doesn't mean that they know that it was happening because their body of research is just based off of what's public. And not all of it is public. I will say that. That is kind of strange, but not that strange in the world of experiments and research. It just happens. Like I said, Penny's still alive, um, and this is very much her baby, right? Her project.
Oh, yeah.
She could still release those files, like it's not like it's buried in the fucking Smithsonian, right? Um, so, and I agree with that. Once you actually watch Coco and see what's going on, it does fall apart. Now, some people say that they would just kind of make it up as they go to make it seem like it is significant. They would just kind of be like, "Oh, she learned a new word," when she didn't really. But here's the thing about it is that they do have kind of fail safes in order to make sure that doesn't happen. Like for one, they wouldn't consider Coco learning a new word or using a new word unless at least two people saw it.
Mhm.
And that was to dispel bias, to make sure, that was in order to make sure that nobody could lie about it. There was a whole criteria for how Coco learned a new word. It wasn't just, oh, I saw her say this thing one time with her hand, and
Right.
really she was just picking her nose. I mean, it really did mean something.
And
And oh, go ahead.
oh, I was just going to say, all of that ignores the many other cognitive tests that were applied as well. And there is a lot of footage of those where you can see again Coco look like consciously making decisions in the moment while taking these tests, and it's not something that is just a response to stimuli.
Yes.
She these are cognitive tests that we use on human beings, by the way, to also test like their level of fucking cognition. So like if it's good enough for humans, it better be good enough for a fucking ape.
Yeah.
Like come on, you got to be kidding me.
And with people, this is another big thing about it. With people that she doesn't know, so not with Penny, right? With Penny not in the room, not with Kate, who she hates or whatever. With people that she doesn't know, she's testing with, and that's a big deal because people will use the fucking what's his name, the horse, Clever Hans,
Yes, clever Hans.
Clever Hans, which is a damn good name,
It is
especially
a
for
good
a
name.
horse. That's pretty good. But Clever Hans, just to kind of give you the breakdown of that real quick, was a horse that could do math. And so the owner would, pick a math problem, 10 minus 5, and then Clever Hans would hit, tap his hoof 5 times. And he would even let people come up and do it with them, right? They would do the problem, and Clever Hans would get it right most of the time. He had some slips, but we're
He
not all
was a
perfect.
horse.
Right, he was a horse. Well, what they found out, or what they believe they have found out, is that this was just a con by the owner of the horse, that the horse would be watching for certain cues in order to know when to tap and when to not tap. And that is did that happen? No, I think Clever Hans could count. No, really, I mean, probably that probably is what happened. We've seen a lot of that, talking animals, fantastic animals for showmanship and stuff over the years, but um, this wasn't that. Coco was doing these things without Penny present,
Yes.
without her there. And a lot of people would say, well, it's like if Penny were carrying around a baby doll and would be like, well, the baby doll told me, blah, blah, blah. Because she was most of the time, during interviews and stuff, it was Penny that was there. Well, because they were very close, and,
She
it
was her
was
fucking
Penny's
handler.
research.
Why wouldn't she
Right.
be there?
Exactly. But you can watch the signs yourself and figure out what Coco is trying to say. Like, that's not impossible. Um, I did a little bit of a dive on the sign language part of it, because what some people don't know about me, I'll tell you, here's a fun fact. My sister's deaf, And so we are only about a year and a half apart. I'm older. So I got the advantage of growing up learning sign language. I caught on to it very quick because I was a lot younger than my parents. So I was always translating. I still do, even this day. And I tell my mom all the time, I'm like, fucking learn how to talk to your own kid. Um,
I mean,
in our
you're
30s,
not
right?
wrong.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm like, she'll be like, "What'd you say?" I'm like, "Ask her what she said. She'll spell it for you. You can finger spell." Um, so I kind of wanted to look in that a little bit, and I had asked my sister because I'd come across an article about how deaf people thought that Coco was like a disrespect to deaf people and their language.
Yeah.
And so I asked her about it. I was like, how do you feel? And I will say that my sister, because there's so few of them, probably can speak for most of the deaf community. They think it's really cool. So
They should. It's awesome.
it is, right? And she thinks it's cool because guess what? She could communicate better with Coco than any of us could, right?
I bet. Yeah. No, she speaks fucking gorilla. Like, how
Right.
awesome is that?
Right. So, I mean, and she was saying that she's like, well, my dog knows sign language, right? Because she doesn't talk very. She's like, my dog knows sign language. So when I sign to my dog, is that disrespectful? I was
I
like, oh,
Yeah, right? Like,
goodbye.
yeah, that I saw the same argument. And I was like, I don't think this is a thing. I think we're really grasping at straws here, Coco haters.
People
I
just
don't
want
I
to
don't
be
understand
mad about
this.
Coco, and it's like, what a sad world
Right?
where you have these people that fucking are telling you this is not real. She wasn't actually talking, and she was, and you can see for yourself that she was. Or oh well, it's rude to deaf people, and it's like, who the fuck said that? No deaf person ever, probably.
Right.
You know? We're just speaking for everybody now. I guess we do that. Um,
It's like,
you know,
did somebody ask Twitter's opinion on Coco? Is that what we're really getting here? Like,
right.
this is fucking ridiculous.
People just want to find some nugget of negativity in the Coco thing. And even like I said, even the nipples thing is not so much. I mean,
It's
terrible that
innocent
right took in for Coco, yes,
for
very innocent.
Coco. Yes.
And just all of this other stuff with it. And I hate that. Just let things be good and feel good.
Yeah.
Um
You don't have to hate every single fucking thing about the world all the time. That's not a requirement for life in the 21st
right.
century. I know a lot of people seem to disagree with me there, but just if you do, shut the fuck up. Or if you can't shut the fuck up, go scream it into a pillow because the rest of us don't want to hear that relentless negativity all the fucking time.
Right. It's ridiculous. And again, a lot of the stuff is just so easily counter argued.
Yeah,
It's so simple. You just have to do a shred of research to see it. But just to kind of say that again, I watched some of Coco's signs, and even though it's not perfect because she has gorilla hands and not human hands, the shit that she's saying makes sense.
yeah,
It does track, and they did base the gorilla sign language off of ASL, off of American Sign Language,
right.
and so like I said, fortunate enough to be somebody that could actually I can speak gorilla. Oh my god, that's so cool. I could have talked to Coco like that. She would have loved it.
There are probably still living gorillas who know
You
sign
know sign
language.
language. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
Yeah,
gotta find one so we
you
can hang
do.
out, and I'll
Let's
show
go.
them my
I'll go
nipples.
road trip. Yeah, fucking we'll get the nipples out. We'll talk to him in sign language. It'll be great.
It'll be awesome. I know. Totally here for it. But yeah, and so it's sad to me that people feel the need to just shit all over it because it, there are things like that. There are things like that. It does happen. Clever Hans is one of them. I get it. But man, that's still a fantastic story. And I would fucking pay money to have a horse do math.
Sure.
I don't give a fuck if it's not real.
Well, also, I mean, what a reductionist example. There is
That's
a
not even the same
world.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not even close.
No.
Not even fucking close. Like the difference between training a horse to simulate solving math problems
Yeah.
and all of the fucking communication and cognitive tests and shit that Coco went through, man, fuck off with that. Like it's apples and oranges. It's night and day. They're
Right.
so fucking different.
Yeah. It doesn't even check out. I mean, so you're just saying that Coco doesn't have a personality. And that's it. And why not? Why can't she have a personality? You
Yeah,
know, because you need to feel superior as a human,
I
right?
think
We're the
that's
only
what it
ones
is.
that can have personality.
I think
Yeah.
that's what it is. I think you have a lot of human supremacists who
Yeah.
are very reluctant to admit that any animal is capable of any level of intelligence approaching that of humanity. And it makes me wonder why it is that these people have to feel that way. Like what it is about these people. What have they done in their life where the only way they can keep going on is to believe that animals aren't capable of any kind of appreciable intelligence. It makes me think that they're shitty to fucking animals,
Yeah.
that they don't treat them right. And the reason that they have to believe that animals aren't capable of understanding more is because if they were, the fucking crushing guilt would be too much for these fucking assholes.
That's a really good point. I didn't think of it that way. That is a really good point. I agree with that. And anybody that's not nice to animals is a bad person.
True. That is absolutely true. I agree with that.
Like, you don't even have to be like insane about, there's insane pet owners, right? You don't have to be an extremist. Like, just fucking be nice to them.
Yeah.
But if you're just a person, like, if you've never caught yourself going, "Oh," about an animal, like, something's wrong, I think. Um,
Yeah, you lack basic human emotions. Like
you
that you are
do.
damaged.
Like, there's
Something is
just
wrong with you.
something, and that's not just like me being like funny, like, I'm serious.
Yeah, you should go to therapy. And
Yeah,
yeah, I'm not kidding around. You could have something wrong with you. If you're incapable of empathizing with animals, there is literally something wrong with you and
right.
it needs to be addressed for your good and the
You
good of everybody
are
around you.
not ape.
What?
That's what it is. You are
Yeah.
not deep.
It's true. But no, I mean, fucking, I don't, yeah. People who don't like animals can just fuck right off.
I just don't get it. And even just if you consider your own pets, again, even if you're not a crazy pet parent, I am kind of a crazy pet parent. But like, think about your own animals that you have. They have distinct personalities. My two cats are
Oh,
not
yeah.
the same.
Oh, yeah.
Very
Oh,
different.
absolutely. And they're smarter than people think.
Yeah.
I don't doubt for a second that uh, all of our all of our pets are capable of a higher level of intelligence than people who aren't pet owners are aware of.
Yeah.
And I'm talking like emotional intelligence. They they know when something is wrong and they
Yeah.
do care about you. They legitimately do love you.
They do. Yeah.
That and honestly, what's fascinating about that is that's proven in labs at this point. Like people have
Right.
cared enough to test it, and they
Yeah.
really fucking do. And that's cats and dogs. And as much as I love our both of our cats and both of our dogs, apes are smarter than fucking
They
dogs.
are.
They are.
Yeah.
And so if our dogs are capable of that, what might a great ape be capable of?
Yeah.
I think the kind of shit that Coco was demonstrating. I think
Yeah.
that's very possible.
Yeah, definitely. It's right. I don't think it's a far stretch to think that. I mean, why would it be? I mean, like I said, my two cats, they're litter mates, and I've had them since they were 5 weeks old. They've never been separated, but they're two entirely different cats. That goes to show that it has nothing to do with me and me being their feeder. They have a base core personality. Like, they have personality, and that's just
Mm.
the way it is.
Yeah.
With Coco, she was just able to express that personality in a way that, like, my cats cannot, or your dogs cannot, or your cats cannot.
Right.
And for whatever reason, people take issue with that, and I take issue with them, and we'll fight. I'll fight
Oh
you at the
fuck yeah.
Waffle House. I don't care.
I'll hold him down and you just beat the shit out of him.
Then we'll fight. And if you're a man, then you'll say that you have to tell everybody you got beat up by a woman. It'll be
That's
extra
true.
embarrassing. So,
And you're not allowed to say that I held you down.
no. Or we'll do it again. That's,
Yeah, right. Exactly.
that's just, I don't know why people get so, they just want to disprove. They just want to live in misery. And like you said, it's definitely a lot more to do with them as people, as individuals. It's some
Yes.
insecurity or something, disconnection. But no, I don't. But I don't buy it. I don't believe that. I think that Coco could communicate. I think it's obvious, and we can watch her do so. Now, she did have a controversial video come out in 2015. We'll talk about it for a second. We're not going to spend too much time on it.
Sure.
Where it's kind of dubbed on YouTube as like Coco's final words or something. And this was something that was endorsed by a particular organization, and it is a video of Coco saying that basically, like, we suck and we need to fix our planet. Like, humans are dumb and we're destroying everything, and
Hmm.
we need to care about the world. And people are like, "Oh, she didn't say that." Well, she did say it, but she was also coached to say it. Like, this was very much like an ad for
Right.
this organization. So, I mean, don't be stupid, like it. Yes, it was scripted. Does she understand what that means? Does she understand we're destroying the planet? She probably doesn't,
Not
but
fully, not more than like a child would.
right. And exactly. I mean, she could probably understand the basics of it. Hell, she heard Michael's story. He probably wouldn't shut up about it, when they were
Right.
together. Who
Right.
knows? But you know, again, going just kind of going tying this back into the beginning, Coco was a great marketing tool, and there's
Yes.
nothing wrong with that. As long as she was treated well, as long as she was well cared for and had a fulfilling life. And some people, again, they nitpick things like her diet and how bad it was, and
Right.
I don't want to hear that shit because they probably eat McDonald's weekly. You know what I mean? Like, fuck you guys, it's fine. Like,
Yes. Well, there are going to be people who have an issue with any animal ever
yeah,
that is kept in captivity other than humans.
exactly.
It's
Yes.
fine for us to be held in a cubicle 40 hours a week or whatever. But, you keep a gorilla in a super nice fucking enclosure and try to provide for them for almost 50 years and you're a fucking monster. Yeah, there's always going to be people like that. And that's fine.
Right.
Like they can have their opinion. And I don't even necessarily disagree with them in principle. In a perfect fucking world, we would not have to keep animals in captivity. None of them
Mhm.
would
Right.
would ever need to be kept that way. But we don't live in a perfect world. I think we all know
Right.
that our world is far from fucking perfect. And so sometimes you do. And sometimes it's for their own good. And then you do your best to give them as good of a life as you possibly can and I don't see any evidence when it comes to Coco that she had any less than that.
Yeah.
I think she had as good of a life as could have been provided for her. And I think the Gorilla Foundation, like you said, they used her for marketing. Of fucking course they did.
Right.
Uh, Again, this is the world we live in. They are fighting to save an entire species on the brink of extinction and they're going to use everything they have to do that and we should thank them for it
Yeah.
because it's necessary. You got to do what you got to do. We're in real trouble in terms of the ecology of this fucking planet and in terms of the climate on this fucking planet and something has to change and we should be using whatever tools we have within reason. Like don't become a fucking eco-terrorist. I mean, yeah, like we don't need to burn that bridge, but we're not eco-terrorist level yet. But anyway, we should be using all of the tools at hand that are available to spread this message and
Yeah.
make people aware of it and try to make the world a fucking better place. And again, I don't understand having a problem with that.
Right. Absolutely. 1000%. When we look at the contrast between, and we were talking about different species, but when we look at the differences between Coco and like Travis was treated like a human being.
Yes, 100%.
Coco was treated like a gorilla that could talk.
Correct. No, you're
you
right. I
know,
thought about that too. Like they were treated very differently, which is why they
Mhm.
had wildly different results in
Right.
how they lived and how their lives ended.
Yeah. I mean, that's just the way it is. If people want to bitch about how she was overweight, first of all, don't fat shame Coco. Don't
That's
do it.
true. She was big
Don't
and
do it.
beautiful. And
Right.
if you
And
can't deal with that, you're insecure.
right, you're the problem. She didn't want to see your nipples anyway. But but no, really. I mean, animal obesity is just something that we have an issue with. Period. With our own pets. Again, it happens.
Yeah.
It's fine. It's not
Yeah,
great, it's not perfect, but you do it. Why do you do it? Why do you give your pets the treats even though you know they don't deserve them or shouldn't have them? Because you love them and you want them to be happy. We
sure.
do it from a place of love, which is why Coco, would get candy and stuff like that. It's not a huge deal. Again, she lived a very full gorilla life. Like
She lived to be
46 years is pretty standard.
46. Yeah, 46 is
It's
pretty
pretty
good.
good.
Yeah.
So, she was fine. And, did they use her for marketing? Absolutely. And it did good. It did very well getting that message across, and she was good at it. And I think she probably enjoyed it a little bit. Because who doesn't like attention, Everybody.
Yeah, right.
Um there's nothing wrong with that. And I think for people to kind of pick it apart in the way that they have is silly, and just fucking chill out, man. Smoke a joint or something. Like, just fucking relax and
Right?
just
Watch some
just enjoy
Coco
things.
videos and enjoy your life.
It's nice, right? It's very calming, and makes you realize shit is not that serious. Sometimes it can be very cool and fascinating, and the world is filled with very fascinating things. But you don't have to be a dickhead
True.
about any of it. So I don't know. That's my 2 cents. So do you think Coco could talk? I think we kind of covered that. But I don't know if I asked you directly. Did you think
Oh
it was
yeah,
her?
I
Yeah.
do. I find the evidence in favor of her making deliberate conversation and communicating complex ideas directly to other people to be very strong. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, I think it's very likely that is exactly what was happening, which is fucking fascinating and important. And it's something people should be excited about. It's something we get to be fucking excited about.
Yeah. Absolutely. And, it just goes to show, just because we talk about a weird topic doesn't mean it has to be depressing either. Isn't that nice? Breath of fucking
I
fresh
know,
air for
right?
once.
Yes, there
Um,
is wonder and beauty left in the world, people. I promise. And when you find it, do not shit on it. Just enjoy it.
yeah. Just leave it alone. Even shit like Clever Hans. Enjoy what it is. I love that. I don't know. I do.
Sure, it's okay. I mean, in that instance, like it's okay to recognize that the horse was not capable
Right.
of doing math, but horses are plenty fucking smart, and
They
even if
are.
they're not capable of doing math, like they're at least as smart as dogs, and they do have a certain emotional intelligence, um, and they're wonderful companions, and so I think they should be appreciated on that level anyway. It's not to say that like, oh, horses are because they can't do math, like, well, they're stupid
Useless.
and yeah, just fuck horses. No, I mean it's okay to recognize that something isn't necessarily authentic, but still appreciate the animal doing it, of course. But that's not the situation here.
No, no, this one really is filled with all that whimsy and wonder. It really is. And it's awesome. And I love that. And just go watch the videos. Go watch her meeting Mr. Rogers. Man, tell you what, that'll make your heart melt.
Yeah. And okay, you know who believes in Coco? Jane Goodall.
Yeah.
And if you don't trust Jane Goodall, I don't even know why you're listening to this.
Yeah. No, this is not the show for you. Sorry.
Right.
Yeah, and yeah, she did. She was all about it. She's like, "Hell yeah. Hell yeah, brother." That's what she said.
Just picturing her like, yeah, hell yeah, brother.
Hell yeah, brother. Yeah.
I think that's what she sounds like in real life. So,
It was. Yeah, I've listened to countless interviews now.
right.
Uh, anyway, do you have any final thoughts on Coco or any of this
Oh God,
craziness?
just everything I've already said.
Yeah,
Just let yourself enjoy things. Keep an open mind, but not so open that your brains fall out. And if you do, you will fucking find that there is still beauty and wonder to be had in this world. And like I said, when you find it, let yourself enjoy it. You owe it to yourself to do that.
yeah, absolutely. And if you guys want to help out the Gorilla Foundation, you can. You can go to coco.org, and they are still, definitely a conservation organization. You can give to them directly, or just find your own local animal conservation society. That foundation is great and what they're doing is fantastic, but there are many, many, many other causes that are much smaller that could definitely use the hype. And unfortunately, I don't have any of them, but just look into what you got locally and, give a little bit of money or, just kind of share them out to people and let people know that they're out there because animals don't have podcasts and they don't have voices. And so we kind of need to speak for them at times. So that's what I want to do. Nate says support your local gorilla. Yes. Yes, that. So,
Wait,
anyway,
Nate is my local gorilla.
no, he's a dino beaver
Oh shit, that's right.
and a skinwalker.
He can be two things.
He's so many things. I think he's a well. He. Never mind. We'll talk about Nate on. Maybe we'll do a whole Nate episode. The fucking we'll do Nate's lore. Um. Anyway, okay. With that being said, guys, we'll see you back here next Wednesday.